Will you lead us in pledge, please?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment? Having none, seeing none, moving forward. Minutes from the last meeting. Corrections, please.
I just have a question, Madam Chairman. On page 2 on IT service bit, was it an RSA that was quoted by any chance? RSA was quoted.
It's an RFP. The RFP was, so it should be the correction instead of under IT services on page 2 at the bottom. Instead of RSA, it should be RFP.
On the second line there as well.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't see that one, but thank you.
Thank you.
And then I have on page 3, very last sentence, Lou Schneider asked
Okay.
if Mr. Castle will be joining the SAU as the business administrator.
I'll make a motion to approve with the corrections.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I do have
Okay.
Ralph R-E-L-F?
Yep.
Sorry?
RELF is how he spells it. Yep.
Spelling.
Yep.
Never seen it. Cool.
So you have first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I understand.
You weren't there. Any reason why we can't do the non-public?
Isn't there 7 on one?
Oh, I need to tell us. He's over there with administration. I just assumed
No.
you were a bigwig, Doug.
7, 0, and 1. 1 abstention.
Oh, sorry. Someday I might get there.
Any corrections from anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
All right.
I understand.
Can you second that, please?
Me.
Thank you.
So we're going to go to the first reading of the SAU Special Education Policies and Procedures Manual. That'll be Miss Ann.
So I believe Mr. Percy emailed everyone a copy, and I also have 2 copies that are draft form. It is the first reading. We met, the policy committee met, and we reviewed it. The one question was a recommendation for what we would charge for a parent who wanted to make copies of records, and I believe we kept it at 25 cents. So this manual basically is how the Special Ed Policies and Procedure Manual is how we follow the rules and regulations of New Hampshire for special ed students. So this just outlines what we do to make sure we're following these rules and regulations. Does anyone have questions about it? I'm sure everyone read it thoroughly. My experience is that it's not read thoroughly, but some did. Great. Any questions about it?
Pretty straightforward.
Next step is that we allow the communities to have access to it. We'll put it on all the websites. We'll have it at all the schools. Community members have it. I told you that we were going to do that.
Do we have to have a public hearing?
No.
Okay.
We just need to allow 10 days of the community to have opportunities to review it, make suggestions if they want to, and then we finalize it and it will come back for a second reading. So we'll put it on all the websites. We'll leave one in each school, one at the SAU, and we'll use the local newspapers to let people know that it's available for their review at the SAU.
Okay, so moving forward, we don't meet again supposedly until April,
Well,
because that's the next
No.
month with 5.
No, we always meet like in January.
Yeah, it's January.
But,
3 months.
but the 31st it's New Year's Eve.
Yeah, we'll,
So would we move it? So
We usually
move
receive-
that around then? Is, I don't know, in looking at the calendar, it would have been December, but it was the 31st, so I didn't know.
I have the 28th
Yeah, 20.
of January is the 5th Wednesday.
2015? I thought you just said December.
No, January.
January 28th.
Mm-hmm.
That's the 4th.
It's the 4th. 3, 4,
Oh, yeah?
that's the
Yeah.
4th, that's not
31st
the
is
5th.
December.
It's every third month, right?
I'm not crazy.
There's
Don't
5 in
look at me that
December.
way.
Five,
I
right.
have a New Year's.
Oh, I am, but I'm not gonna tell anybody. So it would be the 31st, so we have to make a distinction now,
Of what, December?
yep, when we wanna meet, because none of us are gonna wanna be here on New Year's Eve.
Or Christmas Eve.
January 28th is
Or
not New
Christmas
Year's
Eve.
Eve.
Okay, let's go back and
Bring
look
the
at January.
champagne.
Yeah, it's fine.
They're saying
Everybody bring a little.
December 31st is the next one, 5 Wednesdays.
Yeah, but it's 3 months from now. November, December, January.
No, it's,
Yeah, 3 months.
It's everyone 5 Wednesdays. And that would
January doesn't
be,
have 5
there's no
Wednesdays, does
5th
it?
Wednesday.
Yeah.
December has 5,
December
and the
does.
next one's April.
yes,
Yeah.
so that's why I said we wouldn't be
So
meeting till
months
April, and I
with
think that
5
that's too
Wednesdays.
long,
Yes.
so
I thought it was every
I'm
third
gonna
month.
ask everybody to look at their calendars. I know that it's budget season, but you probably want us to meet sooner rather than later.
Mhm.
I'd rather it be approved prior to April, yes.
I would think so. And I guess in saying that, we're also going to ask, we had our evaluation workshop for Mr. Tercey. Have you already given Mr. Tercey your evaluation?
No, I was always under the impression that we did that together.
We did, but what we did is we did our consensus, and we were hoping that you guys would do your consensus, and then we could meet together and do our consensus.
Okay. Well, we can have ours done by the next time we meet.
That would be great.
Okay.
So why don't we have everybody look at their calendars real quick, and we'll figure out a day that we can have it.
Does everybody here have a internet signal connection?
Yep.
No,
I don't.
I don't.
I don't either.
Do you not have the Wi-Fi on?
We don't have your password,
We don't have your password, but we usually
but you guys
have.
shouldn't give it out.
Call the IT guys.
They have a guest one here, right?
Yeah, there's a guest.
There's a
one.
guest password.
There is?
I don't know what it is.
Oh, there's a password to it.
Paul
You
Guest.
don't know what it is.
No, I just automatically
Mine just
comes up.
Mine just
It says
attaches
Paul
now.
Guest, but it's
Keep
actually
it,
password.
would
I
we
don't
try
have
be the
password.
solution?
Even for the guest one, huh?
Because I keep it, we could keep saying, go
So-
home, Ralph.
So when would you like to meet?
It tells me I'm connected.
Well, I would think that sometime, I don't mind meeting sometime in November to get it done, or I don't mind meeting in December. We'd like to have his evaluation in December.
Does your contract give a date? Wasn't it December or something?
I think
Top of
each
my head.
individual policy is different. Our policy says that we will do ours in December. I don't know what your policy says.
No, I meant his contract. Isn't it stated in your contract it has to be done by a certain date?
I don't recall the date.
I think it, I don't recall either, but I think
No
there is
wonder.
one in there. And it's, I think it's December, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay, so let's pick a date in December.
Do you have the budget schedule with you, Michael?
I do. I mean, I have it on my
You
calendar
have
too.
everything? So we're gonna have a short public session, and then we'll have a non-public session to go over that.
Sure.
Mr. Shute has a copy of it right here.
Okay. So if our meetings are on Wednesdays, Wednesdays are not good unless you can come up before a meeting, or we could go down before a meeting.
Could recognize my device.
Well, you guys
and
meet
say
at
no.
5, right?
We do meet at
We
5.
usually meet at 6, so.
Well,
Past phones.
maybe you meet here at 7 then, after
So it's
our
your turn to
meeting.
go down there next anyway.
It is.
Right.
And Mr. Brown will want us to keep very clear on that. So are we looking at like maybe Tuesday, the 2nd, or the 9th?
Oh, December?
Yep.
December 2nd, we have a budget meeting with the board and the budget committee here in Wakefield.
What time?
That is at 6.
Okay. The 9th?
Same.
Could we do it
And the
right before a
16th.
regular board meeting? Like, we start at 6, so we could we do one at 5 in Milton?
Yeah, and we'll
Yeah.
meet you there.
Does that work?
On which day?
The 10th,
On Tuesday?
because you only have it,
That's a
you only
Wednesday.
have the 10th in December, right?
Yep.
December.
So December 10th in Milton, 5 o'clock,
Work.
5:30? We probably need
5.
5. Can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
They'd be pushing it, but yeah.
Okay. So our next scheduled joint board meeting is going to be December 10th at 5 o'clock in Milton.
Send me a reminder.
I will. I'll send you all a reminder.
Of course you will.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a question. So will that replace our facility subcommittee meeting
Oh, yeah,
in Milton?
we do.
Yes, it will be. So we'll replace that with the joint
That's
board
fine.
meeting? I think we could pull it off.
That's fine.
We don't have anything pressing, do we?
No.
Okay.
And that'll be at noon?
Yes.
Okay.
All
right, and then, so-
Community room.
And that gives you a month and a half to get
That's
that
great.
taken care of? Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Ann in regards to the policies and procedures book?
Is there something we can get in the hard, I'm sorry.
She has two
Yes,
hard
Mr.
copies.
Fogg? She has 2 copies if you'd like one.
Oh, excellent. Because maybe I'll never ever get signal ever again.
He's not working?
You didn't get
Is
it?
your Wi-Fi turned on?
Wait,
I think
didn't
so.
we turn yours? Oh, you weren't here last night.
I didn't have this either, I was using my
Here,
cell
let
phone.
us turn you on.
Oh,
Let me plug in first. Oops. Is it on? I keep hitting the retry and nothing's coming up.
oh, that.
Can we make these tablets out of rock? Maybe?
He's got it, he's on, he's walked in.
Yeah, so he does.
It's on.
It's on, what's the
The check mark is there, he's on.
No, do you see a Wi-Fi signal up in the? Goes out.
He's on.
Captain
Failed to
Kate,
download message, he's not on. Oh, there you go.
thank you. Did we retry on its own?
I hit another button.
Is it a secret button that you'll never tell me? Maybe I'll...
Yes.
We probably won't share that information with you,
Ever.
ever. 6, financial reports.
I can speak to that, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
please.
So in your pack, you'll see our, you have your expense summary report, you have your revenue report, cash reconciliation, and your treasurer's report. We'll start with the expense summary report. If there are any questions, we're happy to answer those.
Madam Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So everything, I see we have a balance remaining of 80,000, almost 81,000.
Correct.
Now, so everything has been encumbered?
You'll see that not everything's been encumbered. We still have monies, example, custodian line, there's monies in there. You'll see the business administrator's salary isn't fully encumbered. Workers' comp, unemployment, that's not encumbered at this time.
And it won't be because Andrew's no longer with us, is that right?
That's correct, and we're anticipating potentially being short approximately $30,000 to make up the difference between the business administrator salary and having to bring in MRI to replace on short notice. So there's potential we might be having a public hearing at some point to expend approximately $30,000 out of the fund balance.
Ann?
So, we know what that total is now, right?
For
MRI.
correct.
And Nathan, so you can encumber that now.
Yeah, what we'd look to do is transfer the funds out of the business administrator's salary line into the contracted service line.
Okay.
However, I anticipate we're still going to be short
Okay.
approximately $30,000.
All right, well, that can still be shown on this report,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Any other questions on the expense summary?
Yes, I still have a question.
Okay.
Okay, so that's gonna come out of that fund balance, which is $208,093.01.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So that's gonna go down by $30,000.
That's correct. Approximately.
The
fund balance, Doug just,
Ralph?
the fund balance that Doug just spoke of is something that, like, snowballs anytime there's money's left in the SAU budget, it goes into a certain. And where is that fund also in here? That fund is,
That fund balance is established at the end of the fiscal year, and which you're not going to see it in your expense report or your revenue report.
ever and ever?
It's part of your end of the year report when we provide you that breakdown with the estimation of the fund balance, and then your DOE 25s establish that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chairman. again.
Yes.
So, but we'd already voted to take the MRI expenses out of that fund balance before, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the only reason we need to have that meeting is we're gonna go over budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, thank you.
However, we will be required to have a public hearing in
Yes,
order to
sir.
do any monies we need to take out of that fund balance.
Yes,
So.
sir. And when do you anticipate wanting to do that public hearing? Do you want to do that December 10th?
No, I'd like to keep an eye on the budget to see how much to get a specific number to
Okay.
ask of the community when it comes to that public hearing. I don't want to go in with an approximation. I'd rather have a stronger estimate as to what that's going to be. But I'll keep the joint board updated at our December meeting as to where I feel we are with that.
That would be wonderful, thank you.
Mhm.
And those other lines will be switched around?
Yes.
On the, okay. Any questions on the revenue summary? Any questions on the cash reconciliations? Treasurer's report? Having none, seeing none, moving on. Fiscal year 16 proposed budget.
Madam Chair, we haven't made any adjustments since the last time we met, so your bottom line is still the same.
Were you able to answer the few questions that we had?
Yes, I spoke to Bob Frizella about the lease, and we pay that lease monthly and have been for years. Either district will not be responsible for any additional costs after June 2016, as long as we provide that prior written notice that we'll be ending the lease. And within the lease itself, it says we have to do that. The earliest is 6 months out, the latest is 2 months out from June 30th, 2016, which actually falls right in line with the March vote of 2016, which would really determine if there is a withdrawal process going to happen. So right after that vote, I can notify Bob, and we're well within the terms of the lease to end that lease.
Mr. Tercey, I also asked you to gather information in regards to concerns about the IT proposal, RFP being sent out. Can you show the documentation to some of the board members to get them to understand that that was taken care of? That was one of the questions that I had asked you.
Yep. So I guess a question had come up around whether we did post the posting in the Carroll County as well as Foster's. I have a copy of the Carroll County article as well as the invoice for Foster's for people to review if you'd like to see that.
They're going to want to know if you have the Carroll County invoice.
I actually have the copy of the paper per your request.
Okay.
So.
Do you need to see that, Mr. Fogg?
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Okay.
I've been looking for it.
So here's the invoice for Foster's, and the actual the posting in the paper is on October 2nd, page A3.
Seeing to believe it. Thank you.
Were you able to answer any of the other questions?
You don't want to remind me what the other question was.
Another question I had was in regards to the vehicle maintenance going down to $50.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I can answer that question.
I would love that.
So the Impala is paid for. And currently, it's registered in Milton because that's where it basically sits. It's parked. So the cost for the Impala comes out of the Milton budget and is reimbursed by the Wakefield budget, is the way that works. So it should be in the SAU budget, your total cost, so that it's appropriated correctly. However, I also want to throw out to the joint board that I'm not opposed to potentially selling that vehicle. Something to think about. So if we don't want to incur that cost on an annual basis, we could do that as well.
Ann?
Well, how much are people using it?
I'm probably the one that uses it the most, and I'd say that others tend to use it maybe for some long travel, but not necessarily around the district. So it's not getting used a lot. It really isn't.
Douglas?
I'd like to know what the total cost for the vehicle is, and then know the total cost of everybody that's being reversed for, being for mileage.
Yeah, I think that it would be interesting to know how often it's used, how many miles, and then where it's paid for. Is it worth selling it and reimbursing people, or is it worth it to keep it? Ann?
I don't understand why it was being paid for out of Milton, because we used to always budget for that, the gasoline and for the expenses out of this budget.
That's why when it was maintenance and repair and maintenance, and I even asked about the registration, the insurance, the oil changes.
So our insurance is $320. This.
Which line is that in?
That's all coming out of the Milton transportation lines.
Okay, but it shouldn't be.
It should not be, correct.
You mean, I'm sorry, in our operating budget?
That's
Scott?
correct. I don't know when that change happened. So when the
Because it always used to.
It always used to be in here, and that's why I was concerned that the line was so low.
Right.
I understand that once the payments were finished up or whatever, that maybe that's when Mr. Fogg.
Did it happen when Milton and Wakefield divided duties? You know, Milton may have been taking care of the transportation end, and we may have been taking care of the facilities end.
No, the only thing we did that on were the 2 employees.
Yeah.
That I remember.
But would that vehicle fall under transportation, I guess is what I'm saying. One employee was transportation director, the other was facilities director. Is that right?
I don't believe so.
No.
I don't believe they're the employee salary. because not all transportation went. We still have transportation lines in our budget too. Just not salary.
gasoline is currently in the SAU budget, it's the insurance, the state inspection, the oil change, and the repairs. What you would see goes into repair and maintenance of vehicle. You can see that there wasn't anything spent out of 2014.
But that could be because it's been being posted wrong through the Milton budget, not the SAU budget. Because I'm sure that had to have had an oil change or something. Because
Yep.
even if you don't use
It
a lot of
did. It had
miles, you
one.
don't let a car sit without getting an oil change.
It had
for a
one
year.
oil change at $34.
Okay. Yes.
Who uses that vehicle besides Mr. Tercey?
Anyone from the SAU office. We've also had some staff that have used that if they have to do something from the school, but very, very rarely does that happen.
Put it up to a vote to sell it, or is it worth keeping it for the registration?
You gotta weigh out the cost of.
What year is it?
2006.
2006. That's 53,000 miles on it. It's in good shape.
Why would you want to sell it and if that's the situation, you wouldn't want to sell it, you'd want to hang on to it, right?
Well, I just think if we're only doing one oil change a year and $352, if we're paying you mileage and everyone else mileage, it has to be more than that, no?
Yeah, well, you're not. The only time I've put in for mileage is for a long trip that I took the past year and a half. So I
Would you
usually
prefer to
my
drive
own.
your own car, Michael?
I tend to.
Yeah.
It does a lot better in the snow, that's for sure, than
Yeah.
the Impala does. It's a much safer vehicle.
Ann?
I think that the vehicle used to make a lot more sense when the superintendent lived in town, because if the superintendent needed to go to Concord, it was just a mile from, the house, and it'd be easy to get, but Michael, if he has to go someplace, he would have to come all the way to Milton and then go all the way, or anybody.
And that's the same,
Yeah,
yeah,
like-
I could use my car because
Right,
I'm always either going from home or going
Right.
home from.
absolutely.
Well,
So
why-
our total cost for the vehicle was, for last year, was $1,455.
What was the total cost of mileage that was paid out to employees that were driving their own vehicles?
That I don't know. I don't have that.
Doug?
Where is that figure in the budget?
You can see that the gas is, but the insurance, state inspection, the oil change and the repairs was not, but there wasn't anything spent out of 14 actual. You would see that on page 1.
Well, I was looking for the reimbursement to people that use the mileage.
You wouldn't
Right.
see that. Oh, the mileage is in travel.
What line is that one? I'm sorry.
so you used $500
Page
in
1.
gas.
And $3,500 in travel.
No, we use $700 in gas.
$3,500 in travel.
Well, not really 35 because we still have 19 in there.
Fiscal year 14 for gas was $700.
Okay.
$700.53.
And travel was
Travel
$4,900.
for fiscal year 14 was $4,093. And keep in mind, travel's not just mileage. Travel's also if you are traveling, and you also that wouldn't come out of professional development. Sometimes that would come out if there was an overnight. That would come out of travel. So it's not total mileage.
You mean motels?
Is there a way we can find out what we figured out?
Paid in mileage? Sure. We could do that.
If it's cost effective having a vehicle there for everybody to use, why would you not want to have the cost effective measure?
Just gotta get them to use the vehicle.
Yeah, doesn't seem
They're not
so
using the
serious.
vehicle. If you spend $700 in gas in a year,
Yeah.
apparently it's not getting used much.
I guess you want to make the choice whether you want to pay more money in mileage or less money with the vehicle. And I guess you can't force people to use a vehicle, but why are we forced to pay for mileage if the vehicle's there?
Well, sometimes it's it's like, is Michael going to leave his home in Stratford and come all the way to Milton to go to Concord? It's a waste of
But
time.
why don't we price the car out? See what the
see
car's
what we get
worth.
for it.
See what the car's worth. Well, no, I'm just saying, like,
We'll weigh it all out.
just
Weigh
weigh all the
all
options. Find out
out first.
what was paid in mileage. We know the exact, the insurance, the state inspection, and the repairs were $1,455. And we'll think on it can we think on it until the 10th?
Sure. It's not anything that would impact.
Yeah.
I mean, you're only looking at the only thing that would impact your proposed budget for fiscal year 16 is if you took the $700 out for gasoline.
Is everybody okay with just trying to gather facts and coming back and discussing it again?
We can do that.
Are you all set with that, Ralph? Okay.
I don't mind learning everything.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just on that point, I will say that there are some places that they have a policy, there are policies in place that say that if you have a vehicle available, you have to use that vehicle. There are places that have those. That's a policy we'd have to look at if we're going to even do. To make that, if the vehicle is available to save on mileage, I see where Ralph's going with it. That's what we got to look at as well.
If feasible.
Go ahead.
Now, is that Impala front-wheel
That's the
drive?
point.
I don't know anything about the Impala. I'm gonna have to,
agree. It
would be done.
have to
It
get,
would
and
be. But all from-
Okay.
So I believe, was that all the questions, Mark?
that, and I just wanted to know about zeroing out replaced equipment. Do you remember it's changed to a
Yeah, we
dollar now?
Yeah, we put $1 in there
Okay,
in case we had to.
all right, Ralph?
I was just curious whether the voters who approve these SAU budgets, if they if they approve a vehicle, you know, would they approve throwing the vehicle, or selling the vehicle and throwing the money in a mileage line? I don't know if the people have the right to decide these issues or not. I mean, the budget was approved, and that was part of the budget, so.
Well, I think it's also, I think,
We'll gather facts.
I think circumstances change. We have to gather all the facts and look at it and make the best decision we can based on the information we receive. Ralph?
I would hope that we decide in the favor of the taxpayers as opposed to the individual employees.
I would hope so. I think we should look at both aspects and make a best educated decision. Doug?
I would be curious how other SAUs our size handle that issue,
Well,
just for information.
Michael, could you call a couple other SAUs and ask them how they handle cars and mileage? And
I do know the majority of them pay mileage instead of having their own vehicles.
Okay. All right, any other questions on the budget?
I do. There was something that was brought up, particularly around the $6,000 for the web designer. Mr. Fogg brought up virtual town. They actually expanded out into schools. So I want to find out a little bit more information about that. I did receive a preliminary quote. It was around $10,000. It just was unclear as to whether that was over a 3-year time period or that's your first initial cost. So I don't have clarification on that right now, but I did look into virtual schools and I plan on continuing to do that.
Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Well, I think we need to talk about the whole right beginnings and how that warrant article is going to look, because historically the number we vote on is the number that goes into the warrant article, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is the number that's going in the warrant article going to be this number plus the bright beginnings?
My understanding, what you'll see is in your posting for the public hearing will be this SAU operating budget number, as well as the IDEA grant, as well as the Bright Beginnings budget. So when people know what they're voting on those figures as well.
Okay, so I wish I had a copy of a warrant article. Do we have one in this library? Like an old school district book or something?
There's one on the bulletin board if you want me to go get it. Just anything that raise and appropriate such and such. Hey, what's that?
I have a copy of the Milton one, probably.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Because I was just thinking about when we had the grant account in there, and the grant accountant was included in this bottom line number, and then we had those notes at the bottom that said that it was going to be offset by the indirect cost. So in the note it said what the actual cost is, but the total of everything was included in the warrant article, and that's what my question is.
So I have the Milton warrant articles.
Okay.
If,
The SAU one will work.
Yep. So are you looking, so you want to
Is
know
that
how
last
it's
year's
read?
though?
Yes.
Does it have it?
You're looking for going way
Yeah.
back when the grant
Yeah.
manager was in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
See what they were.
No, this isn't gonna work either, because I was looking for the SAU one
Oh, I'm
from
sorry.
2 years ago when we had the offset in there. Because it had the whole total actually in the warrant article. And then below we had the offsets.
Which I believe is how we would do it again this year.
Okay, so the number that we vote on for up in the warrant article has to be that number plus the IDEA grant plus the cost of Bright Beginnings. Correct?
I believe so. I'm not sure on that hand, quite honestly. You're talking about voting for your operating budget
Right.
this evening?
Well, I believe that's what our intention was, but
I don't feel comfortable voting without the firm number.
I think we need to know what,
So you're looking for a vote on a warrant this evening, or just the proposed operating budget?
when were we planning to have our SAU public hearing?
That's soon. Mr. Shute? November 19th.
November 19th.
So at that time, it would be written as a warrant.
Article 4.
Right. So do we have to vote on the number, including the IDEA and very beginning?
Well, what we can do is, if the joint board is going to vote this evening to approve the operating budget, because we have to post that for the public hearing. The public hearing, that's the opportunity for the voters to come in and discuss the operating budget as well as the total warrant, and then the board can make a vote after hearing the public to approve that warrant, because then you're getting public input.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Okay.
Make sure we get that warrant written for the 19th.
Ann?
Excuse me, Nathan, if you look in either the Wakefield or the Milton books 2, 3, 4 years ago, you'll see how the offset was written and everything.
Okay. Okay.
Ralph?
He was proposing a 1.5% interest increase on the budget for next year. What does the, and there's $60,000 left over in the budget this year, correct? Or approximately something like that?
We're currently at $208,000 in our
In the
fund
big
balance.
fund, but this particular operating budget for this particular 14, 15 years, you're looking at somewhere around 60, is that right?
80. I believe it was around 80.
Okay. So if that amount of money is raised and appropriated and there's not an abundance, but enough to cover all of our bases, why is it necessary to increase the budget 1.5% when the monies that are already being raised and appropriated are covering current expenses? I mean, isn't there a way to ask for the same type of money in next year's budget? If $60,000 or $80,000 represents more than 1 or 2% of the operating budget, why wouldn't it be logical to just ask for the same amount of money without any increases?
Because
Go ahead. No,
go ahead. Because you can't base a proposed budget on monies from the fund balance.
No, I'm talking about basing your proposed budget on the actual operating expenses.
Which is what we put forward to you as a proposal each year, as to our best estimate as to what the specific costs are for operating the SAUs in that specific fiscal year. And if we're budgeting well enough, we're not looking at a lot of monies that would be going into the fund balance. And we had monies that went into the fund balance this past year due to the grant accountant position. That was a substantial savings to us that brought those monies in. So if we're budgeting well, we're not looking at putting monies into a fund balance.
Ann? He does bring up a very good point about our fund balance, and maybe for the next meeting, we should consider reducing that fund balance by deciding upon an amount of money and giving it back to both of the towns to offset the cost.
I'd like to speak to that, Madam Chair. I was ready to speak to that this evening. As a matter of fact, I feel, at a $208,000 fund balance, I'd be comfortable giving $50,000 back, which would offset both Milton and Wakefield's districts based on your apportionment. So you would see that $50,000 on the Wakefield side, 56% of that would go back to Wakefield, and the basically 44% would go. 44% of that 50,000 would go to Milton, which would reduce your budget line. So I would recommend that we give back at least $50,000 of it, and I'm only comfortable with the $50,000 because of some of the shortfalls that we might have at the end of this year.
Well,
You don't think the voters would be more comfortable with a fixed budget or a flatline budget, no increase to the budget? And I think what I witness is the budgets constantly grow and grow and grow, and people become used to seeing higher budgets. They don't become used to seeing monies returned. I think would be nice every now and then, and maybe 3 or 4 years in a row, to hold the line. You know, maybe watch that fund balance shrink a little bit through a natural process. But maybe not. You know, I could be wrong.
Douglas?
Well, we're gonna end up having to take another $30,000 out of that fund balance at the hearing.
Yep.
So you're gonna drop that down to about $120,000 in that fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
I see the point, and as I said, I'm comfortable with $50,000 right now, and looking at a $15,000 increase. So basically, we're looking at $35,000 total that we're a $35,000 reduction, if you will. I wouldn't say reduction, but savings by giving back that $50,000. So we could start chipping away at that. I just don't want to go too big too early in case something pops up.
Douglas?
What does it require that we have on hand in the fund balance by RSAs? Is there any?
There's not a specific
Well,
requirement.
no, okay. But they do recommend it, though.
Yeah, and you hear anything from 2 months worth of operating, 3 months operating, half a year of operating. I just feel that $200,000 is, we don't necessarily need to have that much in a fund balance, so we should be giving some of that back to offset each district's overall budget. And I'm comfortable with $50,000. So I would recommend that to the joint board for your consideration and possible approval.
Well,
It just seems like the small amount, it didn't seem like a whole lot of money that was being asked for in addition to last year's budget. That 1.5% was somewhere around $15,000. Is
correct.
that right? But again, it's the amount that's raised and appropriated, and what the people see in the ballot box, they get used to those numbers. And I've already said it, I just think that people would like to see a constant for a bit without the inflation.
And your constants are on some of those, you're looking at potential salary adjustments, but most of the increases, I shouldn't say most of them, but the increases that are in this SAU budget are based on some of the actuals from fiscal year 14. And you're seeing increases there because of the increased cost of running the SAU, particularly with the amount of documents that we're putting out with supplies and forms and ink and toner and postage. So some of this increase is based on running the SAU with increased costs.
Ann? On the bright side of things, that 15,000 might go down a little bit when we get the final insurance numbers.
Correct.
Because this is at 9%, correct?
Correct.
So that might go down some more. And the other point is that if you don't budget for the $15,000, you can't spend it unless you go through the whole public hearing process. So we would have to cut $15,000 out of this budget, and that would probably be at the salary line or something, because there's really not a lot of fluff in here. I understand what you're saying, and it's not clear to people probably, but we will be given the $50,000 back if the board approves it.
Well, one thing that dawned on me through the conversation here is it a fact or is it fantasy that you can't, if you don't raise and appropriate what you believe you need to spend, and you're short, you don't go to that fund balance. The other 200,000 and take what you need. Is that a process that's not a logical process, right?
It's not something you want to do consistently year to year, because that means you're not budgeting well.
I understand.
We've had, unexpected circumstances this year, which is why we'd be tapping into the fund balance. However, as I said, I'm only comfortable with the $50,000. That's not to say that we won't do that again next year to start chipping away at that fund balance. But I do feel that we should be giving that money back at this point.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so moving forward with the budget?
I'll make a motion to approve the operating budget at the $934,376.96.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed?
Yeah, because when do we get the other figures for the insurance? Would that change this at all?
It should hopefully lower it.
Yeah.
So what's left over will go back into the fund balance?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could amend your vote, amend that number after our public hearing on November 19th, and we're supposed to get our figures on November 5th. So your November 19th after your public hearing could be your final vote. But your vote this evening allows us to put the budget out to the public to review for the public hearing.
And do we want to consider making a vote on the return of fund balance?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Passes.
Madam Chair.
Andy did.
Beth, what was the vote on the budget?
On the budget, Ralph and Douglas were opposed, and everyone else agreed. So 7-2.
Are we supposed to have Steve on conference call?
I texted him, he never texted me back,
okay.
so I don't think he's available.
Okay.
So
But he is single.
I'm moving on.
Moving on.
Okay, I'd like to take a motion to go into non-public pursuant to RSA 91A 2A.
Are you making that motion or you want a motion?
I'm making the motion.
Okay, a second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Walk aye.
You're right.
Victor?
Joy, aye.
Bullet aye.
Seer aye.
Cronin.
Doug, aye?
Doug aye?
Yeah,
Shoot aye?
Doug
Okay.
You can stay for this thing.